Well, we're back in the studio today, and we're going to go ahead on and get into it. Today's word is extremism. It's like one of those type of words you hear, and it's almost a taboo word, and you say to yourself, how does someone become an extremist? How does that happen? And having did a lot of time in prison, I've seen a whole lot of people become extreme in the degree in prison. Oftentimes, and I'm going to talk about white guys because I'm white. And I did 25 years in prison, about 14 years in New York State, Rikers Island and all that, and about 10 years in the federal penitentiary level. And it's like a night and day type of system. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, it's a national system. So, you might be a young white guy from, when I say young, I'm talking 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And you might be from a small town and say, rural America, middle America, wherever. And you get busted for a gun, or you get busted, selling drugs or whatever you're doing. You're not necessarily an evil person. You're just, misguided, and you did some things you ought not do, and you're probably aware of it at this point. But, you still did it, and there's still a price to be paid for it. So, unfortunately, you find yourself in one of these horrible maximum security federal penitentiaries. And what's going to happen to you is this right here. You have really no choice but to go with your race. I'm not going to say there has never been any exceptions to that rule, but, if you ever want to have any position of authority where you can direct operations and you're white, you're going to basically be in a position where you're going to go with your race. And that's just the way it is. You're going to sell with your race. You're going to eat with your race. You're going to hang out with your race. You're going to work out with your race. All these things are just the way it is. This is a system that's been in place for a long, long time, and it ain't going to never change. I don't see how it could anyway, because it's so ingrained, and extremism is at such a high rate in a federal penitentiary. And I'm going to explain that. So let's say you're a white guy, a young man, and, you got 5 or 6 or 7 years. Now, what the feds will do, they don't send you necessarily to a prison because of the time you got. They send you to a prison based on the time you got and or your past criminal history. So you could have had 3 or 4 busts. Nobody got hurt, nothing violent, but, you committed 3 or 4 prior crimes. Maybe they were low-level felonies, and now you find yourself doing 10 or 12 or 15 years in a federal prison. Now, 10 or 12 or 15 years is not life without parole, but it's still 10 or 12 or 15 years. And as a way of survival, you're gonna go with your race, because and I could get into the whole dynamics of that, but that would take me another 30 minutes to do. And so you can take my word for it or not, but that's pretty much the way it's going to play out. And anybody who's ever been in the penitentiary, regardless of what their race is, they're going to have to go with their race also. That's just the way it is. So what's going to happen is you're going to be a younger white guy, and, you're going to be around these older white dudes. It's done been to the SMU, ADX. They're like almost living legends, all right? Walking around in population right next to you. People talk about them. Oh, yeah, man, I saw a dude, man. He put in all kind of work. He's that dude, man. He went and did 2 years in the box. He went to ADX. He went to the SMOOTH program. He didn't care, man. He's been to the SMOOTH 3 times. He goes hard, man. Now, when you meet this guy or you're around this guy, you're going to realize he's actually probably, for the most part, a pretty mellow dude. So you're going to say, wow, man, this guy right here, man, I thought he was this 10-foot giant, and he is a 10-foot giant for all practical purposes, but he's not anything that I had anticipated him being. He's not loud. He's not gruff. He's not the dude who's jacked up on steroids, looks like he can bench press, 500 pounds 10 times. Usually he's like a mellow dude, real level-headed, real cool, and it's easy for you to fall victim, for lack of a better word, to his charm. and want to fit in to his crew and want to be a part of his circle. All right, because he knows all the other gang leaders, whether they're black, Hispanic. Just because people go with their race, it doesn't necessarily mean that's some kind of hate involved. It's just that there's strength in numbers, and that's just the way it is, and that's what it is. So just because I'm white, that doesn't mean that I couldn't have a line of communication with the blacks or the Hispanics or whatever, because communication is key. Then I would say 8 times out of 10, things could be talked out rather than fought out. And for the most part, you get a few loose cannons here and there, but for the most part, people would rather talk about things. So, because, it's easier to work things out that way, and everybody can still make money and move forward. Once violence becomes involved, the jail gets locked down, a whole bunch of things happen, people get shipped. So, a line of communication is effective. So you're around this guy, you see him working out, you hear him talk, he's always cool, he's always the guy with the cool head everybody comes to, ask for advice, because he's already done put an extensive amount of work in. So he can lead by example. I mean, you ain't even been to the hole yet, and you're talking to a dude who's done been to the hole 100 times, and 6 or 7 times he did a year or 2 or 3, went to the smooth, maybe been in ADX. You got a lot of people walking active United States penitentiary yards. They caught a body, went to ADX for 5 or 6 or 7 years, they're right back out on the line. They already had 2 life sentences. They probably might not even have charged them in the street court, just sent them to ADX. Maybe they did, so what? He's got another life without parole sentence running wild with the 2 already he's doing that he'll never be able to do. So you're around this kind of guy, and it's easy to fall victim to his charm and charm of other influential white guys around you, because you're going to see the way they move. You're going to be like, wow, man, I didn't think white guys could have this kind of respect in jail. I didn't think white guys had it going on like this, because of my state joint. It seems like, outside of a handful of white dudes, all the rest of them are kind of like, used and abused. I've never been around stone cold white gangsters, all right, that have the utmost respect from all the other races, and they give respect also. It's a two-way street. And you're going to find yourself very, very entrenched, by their charm. And by a little bit, in order to fit in with that crew, you allow yourself, unwittingly a lot of times, to be indoctrinated, and you become a radical. Now, I've seen this happen time and time again with all kind of races, not just white race, but I'm talking about white guys, because I'm very familiar with the politics. But I've seen young black guys come in. I've seen young Hispanic guys come in, and the path is kind of always the same thing, So extremism is something that our prison system facilitates, and it's also something that the United States Armed Forces facilitates. You hear all these ex-special forces guys having interviews, and, not all, but a great majority of their whole claim to fame is how many goat farmers they unalived in Afghanistan or Iraq or wherever they were deployed to, and that becomes their whole personality. All right. And you hear about all the great victories they had. I fought my way up a hill with a shard of glass, and it was 1,000 Iraqis, but they didn't stand a chance, man, because I was the best that ever did it, And I think probably a lot of those stories are exaggerated, but it's their stories, and they can tell it. And as a younger man, as a younger person, it could be easy for you to fall victim to that charm. If you've noticed, you got a couple of them here on YouTube, and not only are they Bible thumpers, but they also run like retreats where you can go and do a forced march with them, or you can go and participate in some kind of Iron Man activity with them. And that's a recruitment tool. They get you where they're thinking, well, if this guy contacted the organization and he's willing to drive from whatever state he lives in to come down here and have me yell at him and send him on a forced march, and he's right for the picking. And what happens is a lot of young men and women fall victim to that, But to be honest with you, these guys aren't my heroes. Now, I'm not saying that they can't wrap themselves up in the flag. I'm not saying that they're not legitimate, members of the military. I'm not saying that they haven't went on hard, difficult missions. I'm not saying that they may have even did what they thought was right. So I'm not putting them down in the sense of like, oh, this guy's an evil person and he's all bad. He allowed himself to be indoctrinated into that. All right. Because, when you think about it in its most purest form, if you're in the special forces, all right, any branch of the special forces, and you train, and your whole purpose of training is committing acts of espionage, acts of manipulation, acts of destruction and chaos and mayhem, and you take orders for some old fat cream puff that couldn't even do one push-up if they tried, all right? And you don't even know the reason for the orders. You don't know why the orders were given. Some old fat cream puff makes a phone call, calls your commander. Your commander tells you, it's time to mount up and roll, boys. You mount up and you roll. You go deploy behind enemy lines. You go in there and do X, Y, Z, unalive a whole bunch of goat farmers who were just like, I don't even know who these people are. Whatever, okay? And that's your claim to fame. I don't know if that's anything to be proud of. All right? Unaliving a whole bunch of people. My heroes are people like Gandhi. All right? Now, a lot of people don't know the real story of Gandhi, and I'm not going to get into it here. But see, that's my type of heroes. People who go out their way to do kindness and be gentle, okay? Anybody can resort to their most savage side and be a real bad person, all right? But it takes somebody who has real brass balls to be kind when it would be easier to be brutal. And you don't even know why you're following those orders. You get the orders and you go execute them. Okay? Or you try your best to. Now, in previous wars, you were dealing with a lot of desertous countries, kind of easy to surveil, and relatively, I wouldn't say easy, but not extremely difficult to get into, and so acts of espionage, because you're dealing with someone like Saddam Hussein, who was a tyrant, who did oppress his own people, who his people were not very fond of him. So when they had an opportunity to overthrow this guy, not every single one of them, but a lot of them said, yeah, well, I'd rather take my chances with whatever may come than to continue to deal with this brutal dictator. All right? So it was kind of easy to topple them governments. But see, when you're dealing with a country like Iran, okay, now, I'm not a Muslim, and but if that's your thing, that's your thing. So I'm not talking about this from any point of view where from some a secular point of view. But that's a democratically elected government, and they're the only ones who's standing up against genocide. Okay. I mean, if you've did anything to facilitate the genocide in Gaza, man, you're not my hero, okay? You're not a guy that I want to emulate, all right? Period. Point blank, all right? Either which way you slice or dice it, you're not a person that I want to emulate. So Iran is a democratically elected government, and it looks like their people's holding tight. I have a suspicion that if we do a ground invasion of Iran, there won't be a whole lot of special forces team members coming back and doing interviews. I think a lot of them will probably stay right over there in Iran somewhere. And if you sign up for that, you know what comes with it. There's always a flip side to every coin. Maybe when you get over there, you run across somebody who's just better than you are. Who knows how it all play out? We'll see. But this is a message to all the young people out there, man. We all want to fit in. We all want to be a part of something. Most people, most young men and women, they want to feel like they're valued and their life has value. It's easy to get sucked in with these guys, man. All these special forces types that offer these schools, and they're also Bible thumpers. I wouldn't say they were Christians. I'd say they were Zionists, okay? Because if you're going to call yourself a Christian, that means you follow Jesus Christ, the New Testament, okay? Zionism is a whole nother thing. They act like they're Christians, but they actually follow the Old Testament. And that's why you have all this stuff going on over there in the Middle East now. With any luck, and really, man, I don't wish destruction on anybody, but I see the Zionists in the Middle East. They're the problem in the Middle East, not the other countries, okay? The Zionists are the problem. And a lot of these desert countries like Saudi Arabia and the EAU, they're desert countries. They have nothing there. They got their start because America built a military base there, all right, and propped the government up, okay? And all the rich expats, I'm going to the EAU. I'm jet set. Oh, you ain't going there no more, all right? Okay? So I think what we did in Iraq was one of the most immoral, moronic things you could have ever did. Because now all of our military bases in the Middle East, they're destroyed and they're not coming back. All right. And all them sanctions and everything they had over Iraq, if you want the oil to start, Iran, if you want the oil to start flowing again, you're going to have to take all that off. Okay. Nobody's going to the Straits of Hormuz if Iran don't want you to go through them. All right. We get into countless examples of that, but you watch YouTube, you see the news. And just so you know, man, when I was a child, but before things were in my control, my parents, were Christians, and far from being Bible thumpers, but, they were raised Christians, So, every once in a while, for special occasions and stuff like that, we'd go to the church. And my mom made a point of sending me to Bible school and Bible study and all that. I never really was a hardcore Christian, but, you're raised in a house that's more or less Christianish, you know what I mean? Far from Bible thumper, my old man, he drank one occasionally, so it wasn't nothing like that. But you're born a certain way, you're born into a family. If they're Muslims or Hindus or whatever, it kind of gets passed on to you. That don't mean you embrace it. That don't mean that you're gung-ho about it. It just means, well, that's the environment you was raised in, and that's all you really know until you start traveling around and seeing the world. Luckily, I had an opportunity to do that. You know what I'm saying? So I'll never progress that I know everything or I've seen everything. I have not, and I do not. But I know a lot, and I've seen a lot. If you're a young person, man, and you want an adventure, go jump trains, man. Okay? Go do some urban camping. All right? There's all kind of cool things you can do to get adventures, man. Have a good time. Feel like your life matters. Feel like you matter. Okay? Don't allow yourself to get sucked into any of this extremism nonsense that's getting spewed constantly by these Bible-thumping ex-Navy this and Green Beret that and all that. Good for you, man. You went over there. You had the pleasure of unaliving a whole bunch of goat farmers and stuff. Yeah, you're a big hero. Wrap yourself up in the flag. Do your interviews. Tell everybody how great you are. And, everybody else sucks, you know what I mean, because they can't run 30 miles, let everybody know all that. You know what I mean? Good for you. Big hero, okay? But honestly, man, you can pass me with the bullshit. Okay, I'm not impressed by you, and I don't want to be like you. And just because I don't want to be like you, don't mean 1 second that I'm not an American. I'm just as much as an American as you are. All these schools and hospitals that I have opportunity to take advantage of is because my forefathers went and put it all on the line to defend this land. All right. So everything that's here in this land that I have an opportunity to take advantage of, my forefathers earned that for me. I'm just as much of an American as you are. And I'm pretty much a badass now. Yeah, I didn't go to Penn State. I went to the state pen. But I was in there learning the whole time, you know. I know a lot of shit, okay? And I highly urge all young people, you do what you think is best, you know. This is not necessarily even advice. But if I could go back and be 18, 20 years old again at 56, if I could relive my life again from that age to this age, I tell you what, hurting people, doing wrong, even when people tell you it's the right thing, I would follow my gut. I wouldn't be a part of it. I would definitely continue to have adventures, have a good time, but I would not allow myself to become an extremist. I've seen people in prison come to prison with 5 or 6 years, become extremists, allow themselves to become wound up by these smooth-talking son of a guns in prison. And I may have or I may not have been one of those smooth-talking son of a guns. Everything I'm telling you is what I know to be a fact. It's not what someone told me or what I heard about or what I read in a book. It's things I've did, I've facilitated, and I've witnessed. All right? If you got the time, I sure would appreciate it if you take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. And I can promise you, man, I'm going to bring you one-of-a-kind content you can't find on any other YouTube channel. When they, unalive those two people out there in Minnesota, they did it right on camera brazenly. And as you see after that, they got so much backlash. Trump pulled them back and he fired Kristi Noem. Why was she ever director of the Homeland Security, man? What has she ever did? She was governor of South Dakota. Good for her, man. Go back and manage the local, hog population and hogs and cows and wheat, whatever you got, some oil and whatever you got going on up there, okay? Good for you, okay? But that doesn't mean you're qualified to be the director of ICE, all right? And you see what happened under her term. Okay, so now he's got somebody else up there, and I don't even know who this person is. But, they're still there in the background, training around. Now they're probably being CEOs at ICE detention centers. Tuck them off the street and put them in there. You know what I mean? Who knows what's going on with them? But these are my heroes at all, okay? Now, contrary to popular belief, man, I'm not saying that you don't need a measure of law and order. But, crime now could be anything from jaywalking, everything. The average American commits one felony a day without even knowing that they're committing any kind of crime whatsoever. Okay, because there's so many laws on the books. All right, they can frame anybody up for almost any kind of crime they want to frame them up for. All they got to do is just dig a little bit, and chances are you'll be like, "What? Is that a crime?" Yes, crime. That's a crime. It's a felony. You're going to jail for 2 or 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, whatever that old federal judge decides to sentence you to. These aren't great people either. They're old fools too. You ever been, for you guys who've never been in a federal courthouse, let me explain something to you. There are some young federal judges, but by far, the federal judges you're going to come across are 80 years old, 85 years old, decrepit old people, just decrepit, had their heyday back in the 1920s, but yet they're still a federal judge. And when they get to that federal courtroom, everybody's like, "Sir, yes, sir, 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 sir." They don't want to give that power up. So, and they got a lifetime appointment. Nobody can make them retire. So you got old, decrepit old federal judges, right? And you go into this beautifully decorated courtroom, mahogany, everybody's got 3-piece suits on. And when this guy comes in the courtroom, man, he's literally like, for lack of a better word, G with a small G, like a god. He can send us one guy to time served. The marshals are going to scramble as fast as they can to fill the paperwork out and let you go. The next guy right behind him, they sentence a life without parole, and they're going to shuffle you right back into a holding cell and ship you off to who knows where, okay? But these are the type of people that are running our government, all right? They have no problem sending young men and women to go over to the Middle East to be cannon fodder, all right? No problem whatsoever. They're not the ones who's going, all right? It's you. And their sons and their daughters aren't going to go either. They're too important. They're going to be in a nice university tucked away. He needs to study here and be a good citizen here. All the things he can bring their country by swindling people out of their money down on Wall Street and stuff. You know, he's just way too important to go over there and fight them old mean Iranians. But your son or daughter, oh yeah, well, we could definitely send them over there and put them right on the front line. Yeah, something to think about. You know, and it's a deep thought, and it's not necessarily a pleasurable thought. Anytime I see any kind of like political commentary coming out of Washington, D.C., I just turn the channel. I don't even waste my time listening to it, because I know anytime Trump, his mouth is moving, more than likely he's lying. Lindsey Graham, people of South Carolina, hey, however it works out for you, I figure that's what you got coming. Mitch McConnell, he's retired now, but for a long time, the Kentucky people couldn't get enough of him. All right? Corrupt as day is long. That's one man's opinion. You're entitled to your own opinion. Ted Cruz out of Texas, I mean, he lets you know straight off the bat, his number one priority is Israel. The state of Texas takes a far second, but you people have voted him into office, so, hey, you get what you got, you know? It's hard for me. It's like, okay, one time you can say, yeah, I made a mistake voting that guy in. We don't want him no more, and you vote him out. But he's not a one-time senator. He's been there for several terms. So, hey, you get what you get. So, you know, I'm off in the cut somewhere. I'm living a nice, quiet life, and I'm going to keep on living a nice, quiet life. This is a message, man, primarily to the young people. Man, do not allow yourself to get radicalized. It's not something you want to do. It's bad business. Think long and hard before you allow yourself to get sucked down that highway, because a lot of times when you go through it, you ain't no coming back, man. You got all these vets that are all bugged out, man, that have seen all kind of horrible things, had to do all kind of horrible things, had a leg blown off, arm blown off. You see them all the time in your big cities, man. This guy holding a sign up, ex-vet, man, please help, missing a leg, in a wheelchair, all run down the scroll or we're looking. Nobody cared. This country didn't care about him, okay? He went and got all that messed up, come back, and the best this country can do is let him panhandle on a street corner. It's a sad, pathetic state of affairs, man. So I just hope that you'll give it some thought and some consideration before you allow yourself to get radicalized. It's not a good thing. There's nothing cool about it. There's no glory in it. You know, after you go and do all the horrible things you're going to do, if you go down that path and you're going to be forced to do, when you come back home, man, it's going to be hard to live with. All right. And not only that, when you get used to running at 90 miles an hour, doing things like that, it's real hard to come back home and just enjoy life, man. You know, it's taken me about 5 years from, you know, getting out of prison, being able to just do this kind of podcast and not be angry or not be vicious, man. You know, I don't worry about things I have no control over. That was a topic of yesterday's, show. I don't worry about things I don't have control over, and I'm not worried about none of this. I'm prepped up and ready to roll, okay? However, I think it's important to send a message to my fellow Americans who are young, who are healthy, who are active, who have opportunity to live a healthy, productive life. Do not allow these radical extremists to get their clutches on you and radicalize you. It's a path you do not want to go down. This is for all the men and women that are locked down in cold, dark, lonely places. You're down, but you're not forgotten. I rolled it up perfect. I'm going to spark it for you.